Hi, my name is Nathan, and this is a continuation of my last video where I'm going to provide a significant update to my FPL optimization tool. If you haven't watched the first video and you want to use this tool for yourself, please watch the previous video where I explain what the tool is and how to use the tool. To make this video shorter, I just didn't want to repeat what I've already said. So if you're interested, you can read about every detail about all the updates on these two sheets here at the bottom, where it says V2 notes and V3 notes. But I'm going to summarize the main changes in this video anyway from version 1. Okay, so first of all, I changed the colors, not just for no reason. They actually have a purpose now. So pink means it is a required input. The hot pink, these two inputs here, and this is the same as version 1. One quick note about this pink one down here for budget. In the previous video, I made you calculate this from the FPL website, but FPL Review actually gives this to you already instantly after you put in your team ID and stuff and you hit submit. If you scroll down where it says initial bank, you can use that number right there. Some people pointed that out to me after the last video, and I also figured it out myself after posting the video, but I didn't want to remake the video, so yeah, figured I would point that out. Okay, so light purple cells, these light purple cells here, these represent optional inputs. So if you want, you can leave these cells untouched. If you don't want to play any of your chips or wild cards or anything, that's fine if that's what you want to do. And finally, the blue cells, these light blue cells, show the results of your solve, which are meant to kind of supplement what you see on the front sheet, which of course has your actual resulting players for each week. But the blue cells will give you some additional info, such as how many transfers were made, if you took any hits, how many free transfers you had going into each week, and so on. Okay, and then you don't need to pay attention to the rest of the cells in this table, the ones that are this color, they don't change, they're not important. Okay, so the main change that I've made since version 1 is that there are now a lot of extra optional inputs that give you a lot more added flexibility in your solves, including the ability to play any of the chips. So just by changing the purple cells, you can play the bench boost, triple captain, or you can play a non-week 1 wildcard. Remember, if you want to play a wildcard on week 1, you need to follow the instructions in the previous video. But now you are also able to do a wildcard on any other week besides the upcoming game week. Or you can do both. You can play a wildcard on week 1 and then also on a later week if you want. You can combine both both things. So how does this work? Well, all you need to do is look at column M, where these red cells are. And what you do is you adjust the purple cells in that row according to the instructions on the right. Depending on which chip you want to play, you just kind of find it in column M, and then you adjust the purple cells according to the instructions in column Z. So, for example, if I wanted to play bench boost, I'd go to column M, I would find the bench boost, like wherever it says BB, which stands for bench boost, there's 2 of them. So I'd go to these 2 purple rows here, and then I follow the instructions here. It says 15 for the bench boost week, and then leave the rest of them as 11. So, let's say I want to play bench boost here, I put 15, and then I come down here to the other bench boost row in the same column. Right here, I'd follow these instructions where it says 2 for bench boost week and leave the rest of them as 1. So I change this to 2, and that's all you need to do. It's really as easy as that. And then you can go ahead and click your solve button when everything else is done. So you can do the same thing for triple captain. There's 1 row of inputs for that, and then you can also do it for a non-week 1 wildcard. There's 3 rows of inputs for that. Again, just follow the instructions on the right. However, I do have a note down here at the bottom that tells you if you see an asterisk like next to the red cell, then you can adjust those purple inputs actually without playing a chip. What does that mean? Well, if you look at these two rows of inputs, these two rows represent the max number of transfers in a week, and this second row of transfers is the max possible hits taken by the solver every week, respectively. So if you actually look at the numbers that I have for the max number of transfers, you can see I have it set to a max of 4 transfers for each of the first 4 weeks, and then 0 for each of the following weeks. Why? Why do I have 0 for the last 3 weeks? Well, if you've played FPL for a while, you probably realize that planning transfers very far in advance is kind of useless because things change so quickly in this game, with injuries and COVID. In my opinion anyway, you might as well stop after about 4 or 5 weeks. And besides, you only have about 7 or 8 weeks of data anyway. So yeah, that's you can change these inputs without playing a chip. This is just a chip, or this is just a row of inputs that you do have to change if you are playing a wildcard. Similarly, down here, as I said, this is the max number of possible hits taken every week. So I personally like using -2, which, as you might guess, stands for a maximum of 2 possible hits taken each week. Actually, right now I have -3. That's also okay. You generally don't need to change that, but it's possible that you need to change it, possibly in preparation for a blank or double game week, depending on what chips you have or haven't used. Like if you do a solve and the solver is telling you to take 2 hits, that might be a clue that the solver is trying to take more than 2 hits and it's not able to. So you would need to change the -2 to maybe a -3 or a -4 in that case. And then you might ask, well, why not just leave it at -3 or -4 anyways, just to let the solver explore those possibilities? Well, when you make the number bigger, when you give the solver more possibilities, it kind of maybe slows down your solve a little bit because the solver has to go through more possibilities. Might be, kind of negligible, so, maybe it doesn't matter. But anyways, I think I've explained that enough. Yeah, so that's about it for that. And finally, there's the free hit. You can also play a free hit using this tool, and we just need to handle that a little differently. But it's not too complicated. So if you decide that you are using your free hit within, the next 5 or 6 game weeks, but you're not using it right away, you're not using it this week, then all you need to do in general is to delete the column of points for the free hit week when you're trimming down your data. So I'm going to go over here just to an example bit of data that you would trim down from FPL review. So if you're doing the transfers only method from the first video, then instead of deleting the last column, because if you remember, I have you deleting this last column of expected points at some point. So instead of deleting this last column of points, you can delete the free hit week, whichever week you plan on playing the free hit, you can delete those points instead. Let's say it's this week, you can go ahead and delete that. And then you can proceed with doing everything else like normal, like I show you in the previous video, where you make a new column, you copy column E, you paste it over to column D, and then you can go ahead and paste that into your main sheet. Okay, if you're doing the wildcard method from the first video, if you happen to be doing that one, though most of the time you won't be, but let's say you are, then you still delete the free hit week of points, but now when you paste this into the main sheet, obviously you're missing one of these columns, right? So when you paste this into the main sheet, oops, ignore that. When you paste this into the main sheet, you will be sort of missing column K, right? This column K now is just going to be left over from the previous solve. And it won't be relevant anymore. So to compensate for this, you need to change cell N1. You need to change this formula a little bit, and I tell you how to change it according to these instructions here. Change every V to a U. So if you go to the cell formula, you change every V to a U. Okay? That is what you do for that. So, right. So now you can continue to solve like that, like I just showed you, every week until you reach the week that you actually plan on using the free hit. So once you reach that point, you only need expected points for this week, for the free hit week, because now you're only solving for your free hit week. You don't really care about anything after this week, right? So what you do is you go to FPL review, and you can set the game week projection to 1. This just makes it a lot easier anyways. So you can set it to 1, and then type in your team ID, hit submit, download the Excel data, and then it's gonna pop up like this, right? And then you kind of just do what I showed you before. You just kind of delete your extra columns here, and then you can go ahead and sort this data. You don't need to make a new column where you're summing the expected points, because since there's only one column of expected points anyway, you're just basically creating column E again. So you can just go ahead and sort all of this by column E. So in other words, you go to sort, and then you sort by, I don't know, let's see. I actually don't know why I have, oh, because I think I forgot to delete, sorry, I think I forgot to delete this, didn't I? Okay, now, right, so you select all this, data sort, column A to Z, add level, column E, largest to smallest. I realize I'm going kind of fast, but I did kind of already show you this in the other video. So, right, so once you've kind of sorted it, you can trim down your player pool, right, like I showed you before, and then you're going to delete the, that first column, also like I showed you before. And now you can go ahead and paste just these 4 columns into your main sheet. And when you do that, it's going to go right here, and all of these columns here are just going to be left over from your previous solve. Okay, and so once you do that, there's only a couple other things that you need to remember, and I have them outlined here. The first thing you need to do is you need to go into your model file, and you need to change a couple things. It's the same things you need to change if you were doing the wildcard method from the first video. So you're going to change the variable cells up here. You're going to change the 151 to a 1. You can just kind of click in here after that. And then you're going to scroll down to your big binary constraint here, and you're going to change the 151 also to a 1. And you're going to click Update Constraint, and you're going to click Save Model. Remember, in the future, if you're not going to solve for free hit anymore and you save over this, you're going to want to change that in the future. So just remember that, you're obviously going to need to remember that. And then the only other thing you need to do after that is you need to go into your end cell, and you're going to need to change this formula. And you're going to change it to what I have right here, where it says equals O2 plus O4. And once you change to that formula, then it's only going to solve for the first week. And when you hit the solve button, it's going to give you your free hit team right here. Okay, and then the rest of these teams, they'll be like populated, but they're not going to mean anything, so you can ignore them. You can only pay attention to your free hit team. Okay, let's see. So I think that's it. Yeah, so that's it for free hit. So the last thing that I want to talk about for this tool is how to use the team constraints in this tool, because I kind of neglected to talk about this in the last video, and I've made an improvement to this part of the solver anyway since then. So when you do your first solve with this tool, you don't necessarily need to worry about the team constraint right away. However, if after the solve, one or more of your resulting teams has, for example, 4 Manchester City players, we need a way to constrain the solver to only picking 3 or less players from Manchester City. And then we can go back afterward and do another solve and then see what happens. Okay, so the way you kind of do this is when you're done trimming down your data, keep the team names here. I'm going to go to this sheet here. When you're done trimming down your data, keep the team names in column C instead of using all zeros in this column. And I also, I like to store my FPL review data in this sheet down here called FPL review before I copy and paste this into the main sheet. So if I go ahead and do that, if I, copy this and then I paste it into my main sheet as if I was about to do a solve, in column C, now, you can see all the teams. But what I can do is I can do Control H. That's what it is on Windows. You just need to find the find and replace command. And then you're going to type in the team name exactly how it's, spelled in column C. And then you're going to replace it with the number 1. You're going to hit replace all. It should say something like this. Hit OK, close. And then what you're going to do is you're going to replace every other team with a 0. And this is kind of the most tedious part about this, but it still doesn't take very long. Maybe there's an easier way to do this. I really don't know. I'm not a master at Excel. I am only a master at FPL team optimization. So this is only going to take another maybe 5 seconds. And you know what? I'm not even going to stop for Rodrigo. Nobody cares about him. Okay, so once you're done with that, you are good to go. You can go ahead and do another solve and see what happens. The final thing that I have to tell you about the team constraints is that there are still some cases where you will do what I just showed you, and where you have column C properly filled out with 1s and 0s, and you will actually get 4 or more players from a second team. I have observed this happening sometimes, usually during blank or double game weeks. So if this happens, all you need to do is copy the column of team names again and paste them into this cell over here. This cell right here, AA, cell AA2, and it's going to copy down all the way to the bottom. So you're pretty much going to do exactly what you did before. You're going to use the same replace command and replace the second problematic team, all instances of that team name with a 1, and then you replace every other team with a 0. So this column is going to be another column of 0s and 1s, and then you are free to click the solve button again. And since I have pre-constrained the sum of these columns to less than or equal to 3 ahead of time, it's going to work. And just in case, I also have 2 more columns that you are free to use in the exact same way if you somehow continue to get 4 or more players from yet another team, because it may be possible for a crazy double game week where the solver wants to get in all kinds of players from those teams. Okay, yeah, so I think that's all I have to say about this tool. If you have any questions or comments or inquiries, feel free to contact me on Discord or email. If you leave a comment here, then I'll also respond. Some people in my Discord also know how to use my tool pretty well, so they can also help you. And speaking of which, a quick shout out to the people in my Discord, which has actually become a small community of cool people throughout the past several months. It definitely makes it easier to play FPL and stay consistent with it, and to stay focused and motivated. So, if you're listening and you want to come hang out, feel free to drop in. But otherwise, I hope you get some use out of my tool, or maybe this video was at least interesting enough for you. And that's it. Thanks.